Good morning, good afternoon, good evening, whatever time of day it is, wherever you are. Welcome to today's Grain Market Blast, where the awesome Angie Setzer will give you a rapid roundup of the latest flows, pricing, and market moving news in agricultural markets. But before she does, I best get the legals out of the way because I'm always in enough trouble. So I better try and get that well off my back. So as usual, nothing discussed in this spacious session constitutes trading or investment advice or infers any kind of endorsement by PO Global Limited, traders PIQ or PRQ Suite, or indeed the hosts, which as you know by now is the amazing Angie Setzer and myself, Ryan Paisley.
The amazing Ryan, you
Oh,
have to say.
do you know what? We've said it before, we say it again, but when you're having a bit of a down day, just knowing that you're going to speak to you at some point in the day is
Listen,
such
man,
just raises my kind of just inner, inner goodness, knowing
if
that I'm going
I
to speak to your awesome self.
if I can do nothing else, I'm just here to be your hype man.
That's it. That's it.
That's all that matters. And honestly, I'll say the same thing to anyone because life is too short to be bummed. Even though I did spend like 5 minutes with my own little existential crisis last night, where I'm like, I'm really meant to be barefoot, canning my own food and making sourdough, but I'm over here like glued to every development over the weekend. So on that note, let's see what's happening today. Today is
Go, go,
tariff
go.
day, right? The second tariff day in the same amount of months, I feel like. So we'll see what today brings when it comes to the Canadian and Mexico tariffs. At this point in time, all members of the administration, we have more members of the administration on officially on as able to communicate for the administration than last time. We've had more in the way of confirmation. Yesterday, we saw Lutnick say that the situation is still fluid, but then today, Navarro said that he doesn't see Trump backing away this morning, and so we'll see what today brings. We've had, I thought some measurable success, though I am not the one with the goalposts. When it comes down to
Yeah,
it,
right.
I had thought we had seen some measurable success, at least out of Mexico, when it comes to what's going on the border. There's been a lot of conversation about, different things happening there that should be positive, amongst the administration and members of the Mexico's leadership. But at this point in time, all we know is that we have to today left to negotiate, and at the pace that we're at currently, tariffs are coming on at midnight tonight, and so we'll see what that brings. We also know that we're going to bump up our Chinese tariffs to 10%. They're going to get doubled, which is fun. I really am kind of enjoying the all of the different things that had been pushed out as potential ways that we would approach tariffs. One of them was, right, we would start with a low level, and then once a month they'd get ratcheted up. And so this is what China's getting. They had 10% at the start of February. That was one that no one really talked about. Now they have another 10% that's coming in tomorrow. Now the response has been a little bit more, I'll call it hawkish out of China, or at the very least, the rumored response. Now, you saw one of the Chinese
Yes.
spokespeople on Friday say that they would respond in kind, basically whatever you do, we'll do back. But then you saw two different other, representatives or officials with China say, oh, negotiation's the best way to approach it. We still would like to talk, yada, yada, yada. Over the weekend, though, we did see the Global Times, which is considered an occasional mouthpiece of the government. So be careful. Like, that's one of those things where there's been several times where it is a mouthpiece of the government, and then there's times where it's just a trial balloon that fails.
No, this is
But
it. Yeah,
you
exactly.
know,
That's a really good point. So yeah,
yes,
it's definitely state owned, and
yes, yes,
sometimes what they're saying is direct that this is what's going to happen. But other times,
yes.
yeah, like you said, it is government officials saying we're thinking about doing this.
What do
Let's
you
just
think
stick
about
it.
this?
Let's just stick it in the paper and see what the feedback is.
Yeah, yeah, and so we have an anonymous source, our favorite kind in these negotiations, an anonymous source saying that the government is considering kind of responding through targeting agricultural imports. As a result, you saw China's domestic prices surge again overnight, which is interesting to me, just simply because they are already intending to solve their physical shortage in the nearby with Brazilian soybeans. Like, Brazil's infrastructure or logistics are getting back to where they're working their way through this little pinch that they've had pipeline wise. You're going to start to see the flow of beans that have already been purchased by Chinese crushers really work their way towards China. They're going to get hit hard probably in April April. And so this little shortfall that we're seeing is kind of a short pinch. I hate shortfall and then saying short again. It was trying to find another word. But it is one of those things where you are seeing the physical buyer of soybeans in China really unable to source soybeans in a lot of places. You've seen a surge
Yeah.
in their prices. We thought we would see a government reserve auction. We have not. One actually got canceled. And so there's some really interesting things that are happening in China and agriculture. They announced today that they're going to limit the import of beef from Brazil, Argentina, and Uruguay.
Yes.
We will want to see how those three countries respond. Brazil's, a massive share of Brazil's beef exports go into China.
If I do recall correctly, 'cause I
Yes.
did hit that thinking, oh wow, that could be quite big news. So I remember
Yeah.
I saw we posted it, and I was like, oh my god. But I think I've got a feeling to start with it's 6 factories across the 3 countries,
I
but
think
obviously
so.
it's still significant. Obviously, it's yeah again, and it's a trial balloon for more to come, kind of thing.
Yes, and it'll be interesting to see. We had seen them kind of launch this investigation, an anti-dumping investigation
That
or
was it.
whatever here a month or so ago. And so there had been some concerns. What does that mean for Brazil and China going forward too? If you see this, like if we see this reduction in a huge share of your market structure, are you going to be friends going forward? I mean, we're just like the idea of all of these pieces dancing amongst one another, when it comes to trade and policies and export levies and import tariffs and things like that, because you've also got Brazil, who is rumored to be floating a possible rollback of import taxes on corn and ethanol as well, because they have a domestic shortfall that they're dealing with, and they're dealing with food inflation. So you've got all of these things that are shaping up and taking place around the country that we have to watch. And I haven't even mentioned Zelensky and Trump.
Oh god, yeah.
And so obviously Friday we had unfortunate sort of meltdown, or fortunate, depending on which side you're on. I enjoy seeing very sharp contrasts and responses to the whole entire thing. I'm
It's
just
definitely
kind of
polarizing.
very much. It feels like but we to me, this is something that we really have to pay attention to, because I don't know if the U.S. stepping out, like, in my opinion, if the U.S. were to step out, I'm not saying that Ukraine would be, a sitting duck right away. I'm not saying that Europe would be unable to support them in the long run, but I don't think we will see the future for Ukraine be as bright if we don't have something, with the U.S. when it comes to long-term funding, long-term aid, long-term this, that, and the other thing. And so to see that happen on Friday, to me, was concerning in the long run, just simply because Ukraine and the U.S. need to work together. The U.S.
Yeah.
needs to be involved in
Well, there
order
was only
to.
one winner, right? There was only one winner, and that was Russia from that
Yes,
whole
in that
debacle
instant,
as well.
yeah,
So
and that's Russia. That emboldens, in my opinion, it's going to make it more difficult for us to see any type of ceasefire. We did see Russia reportedly attack Odessa port infrastructure over the weekend with a ballistic missile, or maybe they weren't attacking port infrastructure; it was just part of the deal. But you did saw two vessels hit. You saw some infrastructure damage. You saw 2 lives lost. You saw Ukraine launch an attack on a Russian refinery that was the furthest into Russia that we've had since the start of the war. We have this talk of this ceasefire, we have this talk of peace, and we have all of these people that are like, well, war was bullish, resolution bearish. And that's not how it is necessarily
yeah,
when it comes to grains and all these other things. To me, the biggest thing that I'm watching is what does this mean for Ukraine's safety long term, and
yeah,
to really be able to be a powerhouse in agriculture, and be a considered a long term agricultural exporter. Like, we were trying to put Ukraine, on this pedestal to a certain extent. They have to have you have to feel safe about your future, so to speak. And so it
yes,
is one of the
exactly that.
things I'll be watching, where, if we're not careful, in 3 years, Ukraine could be exporting 10 million metric tons of corn versus the 20 or 23, 25, whatever that they had been. And all of a sudden, everyone's going to be like, what the hell happened? Well, we didn't provide a safe future, or didn't provide infrastructure. We didn't provide all of these other things at the end of the war, and so we just really have to be careful and pay attention to all of that, because without the U.S. aid and some of these other things, it could be really interesting. So, having said all that, we have no idea what's going to happen next. Obviously, we've just trashed the charts for corn and
Yeah,
wheat, and so I had a customer ask, what happens when you break through all the support? I said, well, you eventually find a new one. It's just a matter
Yeah.
of where,
Draw some
right?
more lines on. Draw some more
Yeah,
lines on.
yeah, yeah, yeah. Eventually, you are going to find a bottom. Sellers are going to get tired. And right now we're just waiting. It's kind of like having a pit bull hump your leg. You just got to let them finish. And that's where we're at. We are in the just let them finish mode. But we
Oh
are
my
seeing
days.
cash markets
It's a
firm
family
up.
show.
Right, cover your ears, kids. But we are starting to see the cash markets firm up a bit. We'll have a little bit more clarity as we work our way into what the cash market needs to do versus the May. And so yeehaw, giddy up. I am as excited as anyone to see what today's going to bring. And 24 hours from now, we'll at least have some clarity on that, and lacking
Well,
clarity
and
on what's
also
going to
on
happen
top of that,
next.
we have had Trump come out this morning and say expect big news tomorrow.
Oh yeah,
So,
yeah, yeah, yeah. I can't.
yeah, I can't wait.
I'm so excited. So that's why Scheinbaum says she's speaking right now. She does a press conference in the morning, I think on Mondays. We'll wait and see what happens regarding potential Trump tariff announcements. They have a plan B, C, and D. They'll talk about their decisions tomorrow. And she says she's hopeful, doesn't rule out that they'll have a phone call today with Trump. And so I would hope, I mean, I think if you're really kind of looking at adding these tariffs, that we would be speaking at the highest level, but that is just me being silly.
Yeah,
Why?
I think
Why would
there's
we?
only one definite that we know, and that's it. That is, we're not going to be short of things to talk about for the next probably 2 years,
Yeah,
10 years.
at least a good long time. That's for darn sure. So yeah, we'll see what today brings. Hopefully, we can kind of find a floor, come in underneath this market. Like I said, it's really one of those where eventually you shall. And so we'll see what happens.
Well,
Fundamentally
one thing,
speaking, though, here we are. Go ahead.
one product that hasn't suffered with the arse falling out of it is coffee.
Yes.
As you know,
Yeah.
prices are surging due to Brazil's drought, and big ups to our dear friend Nico, who I believe it might have even been 2 weeks ago. It was definitely over a week ago. Um, put out a piece from his weather route, his AI weather stuff that he puts out for the South American region. Basically called it exactly like it is. Said that if you're short coffee, good luck, and all eyes on the balls, and because of this drought that's coming, and it hit.
Yeah. Yes.
So,
And so it'll be something that'll be super important to watch as well, because there are some indications that it could move further west, this dryness that we've seen in some of these areas, and could cause some issues with safrina corn, but we're a little far removed from that at this point in time, but stay tuned. So, and Nico will be the one to watch for that. He definitely is. They're on the cutting edge when it comes to a lot of that, the weather
yeah,
stuff.
taking the subjectiveness out of it, where
Mm-hmm.
no weather forecasters guessing based on the data. It's all purely data driven, which is obviously for some breath of fresh air. But
Yes.
yes, perfect, awesome. Well, Angie, thank you so much for brightening in my day up, and I'm sure the listeners brightening their day up on this Monday morning for some. Listeners, thank you as always for tuning in. Whatever you're doing today, please stay safe, and we'll see you tomorrow.
Have
Take
a good
care.
one, guys.